What's up, apes? Hi, lady apes, gentlemen apes. This is ApeAndy. Actually, Andy Lee. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Andy Lee. Another version of the opening. Hi, it's January 2022. Remember a year ago? End of January 2021? Well, you know what I'm talking about now. GameStop. The GameStop story. Ongoing. I love AMC, I love GameStop. Now, it's almost a year until the January 21st FOMO of GameStop. Almost a year. Well, you could call it marking the 1-year anniversary of GameStop FOMO. Now, this is where all the retail gather, sharing thoughts, and gather around to support a company that they love, GameStop, GME. Buying the stock of GameStop, and on the other side of this trade are hedge funds shorting GameStop. I believe they still are. I believe they haven't covered. That said, I think the retail owns more than the float. I think, okay? We have to verify that ourselves as a responsible investor. So, why do you think the retail own more shares than the float? How could you own more shares than the float? Because you buy all the stocks of GameStop company. Some who bought are institutional investors. Some who bought are retail investors. And so this consists of the float. But then certain hedge funds, they create synthetic shares. They do naked shorting, and they borrow shares to short. And some brokers over-lent their shares, admitting to the mistake openly so that they would not be criticized. But still, it's a mistake. They over-lent the GameStop shares to hedge funds who wants to borrow the shares to short. This broker begins with the letter F. Well, okay. So retail keeps buying the stock that they like, and eventually the retail holders going long on GameStop holding the stock, and the institutional investors who are already holding the stock own together more than the float. So, technically speaking, ideally speaking, in a theoretical perfect world model, it's going to be MOAS. It's got to be MOAS, mother of all short squeeze, because the investors going long own more than the float, retail and institutional investors. Okay, so in a perfect world model, you simulate it, it's got to be MOAS. That's why there was this talk on Reddit and social media that GameStop MOAS is not if, it is only when. I still think so. I still think so. Because if you do the math, if you own more than a float, then the shorts have to cover someday, one fine day. That's the MOAS time. But we don't know when the MOAS would occur. If it's a true MOAS, it's going to last more than 3 or 4 days. Much, much longer than the 2021 January FOMO. Okay, so, all right. Speaking of models, I think models are you put in the parameters, you put in the variables, and nothing changes. All the parameters stays the same. All the variables don't variate and stay the same. And then you put all these parameters in, and the output is the simulated, predicted result of the model. But I think models are for theoretical perfect world. But do we, ask yourself, do we live in a perfect world? No, of course not. We live in the real world where things change, where black swan events happen. So I have lots of respect for the social media analysts that is sharing the stock to flow model. I have very high respect for him. I am not trying to defend him. I'm just saying that maybe we, the audience, interpreted his analyst point of view, model simulated results wrongly, maybe. Because, again, as I've said, models are for perfect worlds. Stock to flow model in a perfect world where the parameters don't change, where the variables don't change, everything is as perceived or as assumed, and all that happens then with those inputs, then the model produces the results. So that is why for 3 months last year, this analyst sharing the stock to flow model got each month the predicted end of month or peak of month result of Bitcoin correct. However, in the real world, variables variate, parameters change, environment change, situations change, black swan events do happen. Like a certain big, huge economy country banning Bitcoin mining. And so a certain exchange in this big, strong economy country are not allowed to do crypto exchanges. It's being banned, so no more cryptocurrency exchange for users from that particular big, strong economy country. And so these users, they have to close their account, or else they would be closed by the exchange. So those users close their accounts, and before they close their account, they sell Bitcoin. So this is a black swan event. In addition to the banning of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin mining in that big, strong economy country. So these are black swan events which the stock to flow model didn't anticipate. The analyst also put forth a floor model, which of course also didn't anticipate and take into account black swan events. Because how could you take into account black swan events? No model does that. Models are for perfect world. Everything don't change. Everything is as assumed. Okay, so that is my take. Okay, I'm not trying to defend this analyst who put forth the floor model, which he said failed, and stock to flow model. I still think the stock to flow model is a good reference, period. It's only a reference. Why? Because we, me, you, we live in the real world. We don't live in a model, simulated, theoretical world, okay? Well, if you live in metaverse, that's another thing. Okay, so in the real world, we're still waiting for MOAS, for Jimmy and AMC. In the model world, theoretical world, perfect world, you do the math, we would have our MOAS of AMC and GME already. In the model simulated perfect world, the analysts who put forth the floor model and the stock to flow model would have each monthly peak price of Bitcoin correct. Just like his tweet, just like the sniper, getting it right every time, every month, correct peak price of Bitcoin. Right, okay. So when we, of course, there's no collective group. We're all individuals making individual decisions. So when I or you invest, we have to take into account that we live in the real world. And this is the stock market. It's a cryptocurrency market. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. So be a responsible investor. When you invest, only use the money that you have left over after paying expenses, taking care of your family. Then use that leftover little tiny pot of money to invest. And then I'm going to talk about in the next video this pot of money that you have for invest, how you should chop it up and invest. That is what institutional investors call, or financial institutions call, risk management. I learned this the hard way. I'm just sharing my personal experience. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not after social media subscribers. No. Okay, so I never say anything that I'm not sure. Okay, and I never try to hype things up. I'm not after subscribers on Twitter. I'm not after subscribers on YouTube. I'm just sharing my personal view, my personal experience, because I'm just like you. I'm a retail investor, nothing more. Love you all, apes. Love you all, retail investors. Love AMC, love GME, and I love Bitcoin. Let's have a safe year of 2022. COVID's still around. Take care of yourself and your family. Stay safe. Love you all.